The stars had watched humanity suffer for 200 years. They watched in silence as the Galactic Collective took everything from the small blue planet called Earth. They watched as humans begged for equality and received only chains. But the stars also watched something else, something the Collective never saw. They watched humanity prepare. Admiral Kongjae stood at the window of the underground command center, 12 kilometers beneath the surface of Earth. He was 63 years old, and his face carried the scars of a lifetime spent pretending to be weak. His wife had died in the Mercy Purge of 2298. His 2 daughters had been taken. 2 integration centers and never returned. The Collective called it population management. Kong called it murder. Admiral, a young officer said from behind him. All sectors report ready. 50,000 vessels. 12 billion souls. We are prepared. Gong did not turn around. He kept his eyes on the holographic display showing Earth's surface above them. Cities full of lights, people walking through streets, children playing in parks. In 3 hours, all of it would go dark. Has Dr. Park confirmed the dimensional transfer? Kong asked. Yes, sir. The pocket dimension is stable. Transit will take approximately 4 seconds for each group. The Collective's sensors will detect nothing. Kong finally turned. His eyes were cold, but not cruel. They were the eyes of a man who had waited 80 years for this night. Then began Operation Silence. Across the planet, the plan unfolded with perfect precision. And Seoul families walked calmly into subway stations that led not to trains, but to massive underground chambers. In New York, entire neighborhoods descended into basements that connected to tunnels stretching hundreds of kilometers. In Cairo, in Mumbai, in São Paulo, in Moscow, 12 billion humans moved like water flowing downhill. They had practiced this for decades. Every child knew the drill. Every grandmother knew her role. Dr. Park Yuna monitored the transfer from her station in the Antarctic facility. She was 41 years old, and she had spent 20 of those years building the technology that would save her species. The Collective believed humans were stupid. They believed humans could never develop faster than light travel. They were wrong. Park had cracked the equations when she was 19. She had kept it secret ever since. Transfer rate holding steady, her assistant reported. 2 billion complete. 10 billion remaining. Park nodded but did not celebrate. There would be time for celebration later, or there would be death. There was no middle ground tonight. Captain Li Huan sat in the command chair of the flagship Horizon's Edge, hidden in the darkness behind Neptune. He was 34 years old, young for a captain, but age meant nothing in a fleet that had never fought a real battle. What mattered was hunger, and Hoon was hungrier than anyone. His parents had been scientists who asked too many questions. The Collective had made them disappear when Juan was 7 years old. He remembered standing at the door of their empty apartment, calling for them, not understanding why they never answered. 27 years later, he understood perfectly. And he had spent every day since then preparing to make the Collective understand too. Captain, his sensor officer said, Earth's population is now at 6 billion and falling. Transit is ahead of schedule. Juan allowed himself a small smile. Good, the Collective's observation satellites? Still reporting normal activity? Our holographic projections are holding. As far as they know, humans are sleeping peacefully in their beds. On Earth's surface, the illusion was perfect. Holographic projectors created images of people walking, cars driving, lights turning on and off in windows. The Collective's lazy observers saw exactly what they expected to see. They had never bothered to look closely at humans. Why would they? Humans were just animals to them. Clever animals, perhaps, but animals nonetheless. By midnight, Earth was empty. 12 billion humans had vanished into underground facilities and transferred to the pocket dimension that Park had created. Cities stood silent. Streets lay bare. The only movement came from automated systems continuing their work in holographic ghosts. Pretending to be alive at 3 in the morning, the holograms shut off. Collective Observer Station 7 was the first to notice. A bored technician named Grix was watching Earth's feeds when suddenly half of North America went dark. Not a power failure dark, empty dark. He adjusted his sensors and felt his blood turn cold. Commander Grix called out, his voice shaking. Something is wrong with Earth. The station commander walked over and looked at the display. Then she looked at another display. Then another. Her 4 eyes went wide. There are no life signs, she whispered. The entire planet has no life signs. The news reached the Collective Council within the hour. High Counselor Torek received the report while eating his morning meal. He read it twice, then laughed. Finally, he said to his advisors, "The human problem has solved itself. They must have killed themselves or fled in those primitive ships they were secretly building. Either way, Earth is now available for proper use." The Tonsil celebrated. They had always known humans would fail eventually. The species was too emotional, too unpredictable, too dangerous to exist alongside proper civilizations. Whatever had happened to them, it was for the best. Torek ordered a survey fleet to claim Earth's resources. 50 ships departed for the empty planet, already planning how to divide its oceans and minerals and land. They never arrived. Admiral Kong watched the collective survey fleet approach Earth on his tactical display. Behind him, the bridge of his command ship hummed with quiet energy. Around his vessel, 50,000 warships held position in the darkness of deep space. Each ship was a masterpiece of engineering that the collective could not imagine. Each ship carried weapons that would reshape galactic warfare forever. Admiral Vice Admiral Shinari said from her station, "The survey fleet will reach Earth in 6 minutes. Do we intercept?" Kang shook his head. "No, let them see. Let them land on our empty world and wonder what happened. Let them report back that humanity is gone. Let the entire galaxy believe we are dead." Nari frowned. And then, Kong turned to face his fleet through the viewport. 50,000 ships. 80 years of secret construction. 200 years of suffering distilled into steel and fire and fury. And then, Kong said softly, "We rise." The stars watched. They had seen humanity fall. Now, they would see humanity do something the galaxy had never witnessed before. They would see the prey become the predator. They would see the slaves become the masters. They would see what happened when you pushed a species too far and left them no choice but to push back. The silence had begun, but it would not last. And when it ended, the galaxy would learn a lesson it would never forget. Humans did not disappear. Humans prepared. And now they were ready. 3 days passed after Earth went silent. The collective survey fleet had landed on the empty planet and found nothing. No bodies, no signs of struggle, no explanation. 12 billion humans had simply vanished like smoke in the wind. The Council declared it a mystery and moved on to more important matters. They had already begun dividing Earth's territories among the powerful species. They laughed about it at diplomatic dinners. The human problem was finally over. Then the sensors started screaming. Deep. Space Monitoring Station Keth-4 was the first to detect them. A junior analyst named Burrell was running routine scans of the outer solar system when his equipment went insane. Numbers that made no sense. Energy signatures that should not exist. He called his supervisor. His supervisor called the station commander. The station commander looked at the data and felt genuine fear for the first time in her 200-year career. "That cannot be right," she said. "Run the scan again." They ran it again. The results were the same. Coming from behind Neptune, spreading across a region of space larger than most planets, were 50,000 vessels. Not primitive human ships with chemical rockets and basic shields. These were warships. Advanced warships. Warships that made the Collective's finest battle cruisers look like children's toys. "Contact the Council," the station commander ordered. "Tell them the humans are not dead. Tell them the humans are coming." Admiral Kang Jae stood on the bridge of his command ship and watched his fleet emerge from hiding. For 80 years they had built these vessels in secret. They had mined asteroids in the dark. They had constructed shipyards inside hollowed moons. They had developed weapons and shields and engines that the Collective had said were impossible. Every human scientist who had been told they were too stupid to understand galactic technology had instead surpassed it. "All ships report ready," Vice Admiral Shinari announced. "The fleet is at full combat status." Kong nodded slowly. He had imagined this moment for decades. He had dreamed about it while watching his friends die in the plagues that the collective had designed, specifically to kill humans. He had planned for it while pretending to be a simple farmer on Earth's surface. Now, the moment had arrived and he felt no joy, only cold determination. "Open a channel," Kong said. "All frequencies. Every receiver in the galaxy." Nari worked her console. "Channel open, Admiral." "The galaxy is listening." Kong stepped forward. His voice was steady and calm when he spoke, but every word carried the weight of 2 centuries of suffering. "This message is for the Galactic Collective and all species within its domain. I am Admiral Kong J of the Human Defense Fleet. For 200 years, you have treated humanity as animals. You have restricted our technology. You have stolen our resources. You have murdered our children and called it mercy. You believed we were weak. You were wrong." He paused and let the silence stretch across 1,000 star systems. He did not disappear. "We prepared. And now we are coming. Not for revenge. Not for conquest. We are coming for justice. Every crime you committed against humanity has been recorded. Every plague you engineered, every life you stole. You will answer for all of it. This is not a threat. This is a promise." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings stared at their screens in disbelief. The Collective Council erupted into chaos. High Counselor Torek demanded immediate action, but his military advisors had no answers. They had spent 200 years making sure humans could never fight back. They had taken away their weapons, limited their technology, crushed every attempt at advancement. How had this happened? The answer was simple. Humans were better at hiding than anyone had imagined. Captain Li Huan led the first attack, wing toward Collective Military Station, Gamma 7, his ship. The Horizon's Edge cut through space at speeds the enemy could not track. Behind him flew 500 vessels, each one crewed by humans who had lost everything to the Collective's cruelty. Enemy station in range, his weapons officer reported. They are raising shields and launching fighters. Juan watched the enemy fighters on his display. Old designs, slow engines, weak weapons. The Collective had not improved their military technology in 300 years because they had never faced a real threat. They were about to learn what a real threat looked like. "All ships," Juan said calmly. "Fire." The battle lasted for minutes. Human weapons cut through Collective shields like they did not exist. Human ships moved so fast, the enemy targeting systems could not lock on. When the smoke cleared, Gamma 7 was disabled and drifting. Its crew was alive, but helpless. Their weapons were destroyed. Their engines were dead. They could do nothing but wait. Juan opened a channel to the station. "This is Captain Li Juan of the Human Defense Fleet. Your station has been disabled. We are not going to kill you. Medical ships will arrive to assist your wounded. You will be taken prisoner and treated according to the laws of war. Laws that your collective never gave us." The station commander responded with confusion and anger. "You attack us and then offer mercy? What kind of war is this?" Juan smiled sadly. "The kind of war humans fight. We are not monsters. We never were. You just never bothered to find out." Across collective space, the same scene repeated 200 times. Human fleets struck military targets with surgical precision. They destroyed weapons and engines, but avoided killing when possible. They captured crews and treated prisoners with dignity. They did everything the collective had never done for them. Dr. Park Yuna watched the battle reports from her ship and felt tears streaming down her face. She had spent 20 years developing the technology that made this possible. The dimensional drives, the quantum shields, the pulse weapons that disabled without destroying. She had done it all because she believed humans were better than their enemies. "We are winning," her assistant said with wonder. "We are actually winning." Park shook her head. Winning battles is easy. Winning without becoming what we hate is hard. That is the real test. Vice Admiral Shinari commanded the assault wings with cold efficiency. She felt no mercy for the collective, but she followed orders. No civilian targets. No unnecessary deaths. Capture when possible. The galaxy expected humans to be savage. They would show the galaxy something different. By the end of the first day, humanity had disabled 300 military installations and captured over 2 million prisoners. The collective's defensive network was shattered. Their supply lines were cut. Their fleet was in chaos. High Counselor Torek received the reports in his private chamber. For the first time in his long life, he understood fear. Not fear of death. Fear of something worse. Fear of justice. The humans were not trying to destroy the collective. They were trying to expose it. Every captured station, every surviving crew member, every recorded battle was proof that humanity was not the savage species the collective had claimed. They were organized. They were merciful. They were everything the collective had pretended to be. And they were just getting started. Admiral. Kong looked at the stars and thought about his daughters. They had been 7 and 9 years old when the collective took them. He would never see them again. But perhaps, because of what was happening now, no human child would ever suffer the same fate. Admiral Nari said, "The Council has requested negotiations." Kong shook his head. "Not yet. They need to understand something first." "What is that, sir?" Kong turned from the viewport. His eyes were hard but not cruel. "They need to understand that we could destroy them all. Only then will they believe us when we choose not to." The rising had begun, and it would not stop until the galaxy understood what humanity really was. The war had lasted 2 weeks, and the collective was losing. Not slowly, not gradually. They were losing in ways that should have been impossible. Every fleet they sent against the humans was defeated. Every defensive line was broken. Every strategy was countered before it could begin. The mighty Galactic Collective, rulers of 1,000 star systems, was being humiliated by a species they had considered animals. High Counselor. Torek stood before the emergency council meeting and tried to project confidence he did not feel. Around him sat the leaders of the 37 species that made up the collective. All of them were afraid. He could smell it on their skin, see it in their eyes, hear it in their voices. "We must unite," Torek declared. "We must combine every ship, every weapon, every soldier we have. The humans are powerful, but they cannot defeat all of us together. I propose total mobilization. 2 million vessels. The largest fleet in galactic history." The other counselors murmured their agreement. What choice did they have? The humans had already disabled half of the collective's military infrastructure. If they did not act together, they would fall separately. "Send the order," Torek commanded. "Every species contributes their entire fleet. We will crush this human rebellion once and for all." Across the galaxy, ships began to gather. Battle cruisers from the Taurian homeworld, destroyers from the Kellex colonies, carriers from the Mordoth Empire, 2 million vessels from 37 species, all converging on a single point in space. It was the largest military force ever assembled. Surely, the counselors believed, nothing could stand against it. Admiral Kong received reports of the enemy mobilization and felt no fear. He had expected this. He had planned for this. The collective thought numbers would save them. They were wrong. "How many ships?" Vice Admiral Shinari asked. 2 million, approximately, Kong replied. "They are gathering near the Vorith system." Nari's eyes widened slightly. "We have 50,000 ships, Admiral. That is a 42-1 disadvantage." Kong smiled for the first time in weeks. "Numbers only matter if both sides are fighting the same war. We are not." Lieutenant Kim Day sat in the cockpit of his fighter and waited for orders. He was 26 years old, and he had joined the fleet the day after his 20th birthday. Every day since then, he had trained for this moment. Every night, he had dreamed about the aliens who had killed his family in the Mercy Purge. His parents, his grandparents, his little sister, All dead because the collective had decided there were too many humans on Earth. They had released a plague that killed 3 billion people in 6 months. They had called it a natural disaster. Everyone knew the truth. Day gripped his controls tighter. Today he would have his chance at justice. Or revenge. He was not sure which one he wanted anymore. All squadrons. Captain Wan's voice came through the comm. The enemy fleet has assembled. Admiral Kang is deploying the Revelation. Stand by for the signal. The Revelation. Day had heard rumors about it but never seen it. A weapon so advanced that it made everything else look primitive. Dr. Park Yuna had designed it herself. The ultimate expression of human ingenuity. In the command ship, Kong watched the enemy fleet on his tactical display. 2 million ships arranged in perfect formation. They thought they looked powerful. They looked like targets. Dr. Park, Kong said. Is the Revelation ready? Park Yuna stood at her station with quiet confidence. Ready, Admiral. On your command? Kong took a deep breath. This moment would change everything. Not just the war. The entire galaxy's understanding of what humans could do. Fire. The Revelation was not a weapon that destroyed. It was a weapon that revealed. A pulse of energy spread from the human fleet like ripples in a pond. It passed through space at impossible speed, washing over the collective armada like a gentle wave, and then 2 million ships went dark. No explosions. No fire. No death. Every engine, every weapon, every system simply stopped working. The largest fleet in galactic history became 2 million pieces of floating metal, helpless and drifting. High Counselor Torek stood on his flagship bridge and stared at blank S. Screens, nothing worked. Not his weapons. Not his shields. Not even his lights. Emergency systems provided minimal power, enough to keep the crew alive, but nothing else. What happened? He screamed. What did they do? No one could answer him. No one understood. Captain Wan led his squadron through the disabled fleet. Human ships moved between the helpless collective vessels, not attacking, just watching. Boarding parties began capturing the enemy ships one by one. Within 6 hours, the human fleet had taken 400,000 vessels as prisoners of war. Wan found himself boarding the flagship, where High Counselor Torek waited. The alien leader stood surrounded by guards who had no working weapons. He looked at Wan with pure hatred. Just kill me, Torek spat. End this farce. Wan shook his head. We are not here to kill you. We are here to arrest you. You will stand trial for crimes against humanity. You will answer for every death, every plague, every child taken from their family. Trial. Torek laughed bitterly. What do humans know about justice? More than you ever taught us? Medek Choi Hanna worked on a captured medical ship, treating wounded collective soldiers. Many of them were afraid of her. They'd been told humans were savages who would torture and kill prisoners. Instead, they found doctors who healed their wounds and offered them water. One young alien soldier grabbed Hannah's arm. Why? He asked. Why are you helping us? We destroyed your people. Hannah looked at him with sad eyes. Your leaders destroyed us. Your soldiers followed orders. There is a difference. And besides, we are not like you. We do not punish the innocent for the crimes of the guilty. The soldier began to cry. He had been taught his entire life that humans were animals. Now a human woman was saving his life and speaking to him with kindness. Everything he believed was a lie. Admiral Kong addressed the galaxy again that night. His face appeared on every screen, in every home, on every planet. Today the collective sent 2 million ships to destroy us. We disabled them all. We captured 400,000 vessels. We did not kill unless we had no choice. We treated prisoners with dignity. We showed mercy to those who never showed mercy to us. He paused and let his words sink in. God, we could have destroyed that fleet. We could have killed every being on every ship. We have the power. But power without restraint is not strength. It is cruelty. And we refuse to become what we hate. Kong leaned forward. This war will end. The guilty will face justice. But we will not commit genocide. We will not murder innocents. We will not become the monsters you called us. Remember this day. Remember what humans did when they had the power to do anything? We chose mercy. As the transmission ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings sat in stunned silence. The narrative was shifting. Humanity was not a savage species that needed to be controlled. Humanity was what the collective had always claimed to be, but never was. The reckoning had come. And it was more terrifying than any weapon because it revealed a simple truth. The collective was the monster. It had always been the monster, and now everyone knew. Intelligence Director Ote had waited 40 years for this moment. He was 71 years old now, his hair white and his hands slightly shaky, but his mind was as sharp as ever. For 4 decades, he had led a network of human spies embedded throughout the collective. They had worked as servants, as laborers, as translators. They had been invisible because no one important ever noticed the humans cleaning their floors or serving their meals, and they had collected everything. Director to his assistant said. The archive is ready for transmission. 800 years of classified collective documents. Do we proceed? O smiled. It was not a kind smile. Send it to every news network, every information hub, every personal device in the galaxy. Let them see what their leaders have been hiding. The transmission began, and the galaxy changed forever. On 100 billion screens, the truth appeared. Documents from the collective's own archives, marked, classified, sealed for eternity, never meant to be seen by ordinary citizens. The first files showed the decision to restrict human technology, not because humans were dangerous, but because collective scientists had recognized human potential. Internal memos warned that humans learned too quickly, adapted too well, innovated too freely. They would surpass the collective within a century if allowed to develop naturally. So they were not allowed. Then came the plague documents, journalist Yoon Mi, broadcast from a hidden human media ship, her voice steady as she read the files aloud. These documents show that the pandemic of 2298, which killed 3 billion humans, was engineered by collective bioweapons specialists. The project was called Operation Mercy. Its goal was to reduce the human population to a manageable level. The files included everything: research notes, test results, delivery methods, even casualty projections. The collective had designed a disease specifically to kill humans while leaving other species untouched. They had released it on Earth and watched 3 billion people die over 6 months. Then they had expressed sympathy and offered aid. All of it was planned. But that was not the worst revelation. The sterilization programs came next. Documents showed that for 50 years the collective had added chemicals to human food supplies that reduced fertility. Birth rates had dropped by 60%, and humans had blamed themselves. They had wondered what was wrong with their bodies, their environment, their culture. Nothing was wrong. They were being quietly eliminated. Then the Integration Center files, Ote, had saved these for last, because they were the hardest to release. Integration centers were where the collective sent humans who showed unusual intelligence or ability. Parents were told their children had been selected for advanced education. The truth was different. The integration centers were death camps, Yoonmi reported, her voice finally breaking. Children were taken and studied. Most were killed in experiments. Some were reprogrammed and used as weapons against their own species. None were ever returned to their families. Admiral Kong watched the broadcasts from his command ship. He had known most of this already. Intelligence had briefed him decades ago. But seeing it spread across the galaxy, watching billions of beings learn the truth simultaneously, felt like a weight lifting from his chest. The collective's member species are reacting. Vice Admiral Shin Nari reported. There are protests on 14 worlds. 3 species have withdrawn from the collective government. The Mordath have arrested their own counselor. Kong nodded slowly. This is why we did not just attack. Destroying the collective would make us conquerors. Exposing them makes us liberators. The ripples spread faster than anyone expected. Other oppressed species began coming forward with their own stories. The Veth had been subjected to similar population controls. The Kirin had lost entire generations to integration centers. The Salia had been forced into slave labor disguised as economic partnership. The collective was not an alliance of equals. It was an empire of exploitation, and humanity was simply its latest victim. General Mora had served the collective military for 300 years. She was one of the most decorated officers in galactic history. She had believed in the collective's mission with absolute faith. Now she sat in her quarters and read the classified files and felt everything she believed crumble to dust. Her species, the Taurians, had helped design the human plagues. Her own government had participated in genocide. Every medal on her uniform felt like a mark of shame. She opened a channel to her fleet. "This is General Mora. I have read the files. I have seen the truth. I will not fight for lies anymore. Any ship that wishes to surrender to the humans may do so. I will be the first." Half of her fleet followed her. High Counselor Turek remained defiant even in captivity. From his cell on a human prison ship, he issued a statement declaring the documents to be forgeries. Human propaganda. Lies designed to weaken the collective. Some believed him. Most did not. "Council is fracturing," Director O reported to Admiral Kong. 17 species have now withdrawn. The remaining members are fighting among themselves. They are blaming each other for the crimes we exposed. Kong felt no satisfaction, only tired determination. Offer terms again. Full accountability for the leadership responsible for crimes against humanity. War crimes tribunals conducted by neutral parties. Restructuring of the collective into a genuine alliance of equals. In exchange, we stop our advance. No? Torek received the terms and rejected them immediately. He would not stand trial. He would not admit guilt. He would rather see the galaxy burn than face justice. "Then we continue," Kong said quietly. Captain Wan led the fleet toward the collective's core worlds, not to destroy them, to liberate them. Wherever human ships appeared, they broadcast the truth. They showed the files. They let populations make their own choices. On world after world, governments fell. Citizens who had believed the collective's lies for centuries suddenly saw reality. Many were angry at humans for destroying their comfortable worldview. Many more were angry at their own leaders for lying to them. Dr. Park Yuna worked with liberated scientists from other species to develop new technologies, not weapons, medical treatments, food production systems, energy generators. She wanted to show that Humanity's advanced technology was not just for war. "We spent 80 years preparing to fight," she told her team. "Now we must prepare to build. The galaxy, after this war, will need help. We should be ready to give it." Torek made one final desperate move. From his cell, he managed to send a coded message to loyalists still within the collective military. The message authorized the deployment of a planet-killer weapon. Its target was Earth. "They want to destroy our home world," Nari reported with cold fury. "Even though it is empty. Even though it serves no military purpose. They want to hurt us." Nam closed his eyes. "Intercept it. Whatever the cost," Captain Wan volunteered. His ship, the Horizon's Edge, was the fastest in the fleet. He caught the planet-killer weapon 3 hours before it would have reached Earth. His weapons disabled its propulsion, but the weapon had a failsafe. If it could not complete its mission, it would detonate. Juan opened a channel to the fleet. "I can contain the explosion if I position my ship correctly. The blast will not reach Earth, but my ship will not survive." Admiral Kong's voice came through the cum. "Hun, there must be another way." "There is not, Admiral, and this is my choice. Earth is empty, but it is still home. It is still ours. I will not let them take it from us." Juan positioned his ship between the weapon and Earth. When the detonation came, the Horizon's Edge absorbed most of the blast. Juan's final transmission reached every human in the galaxy. They wanted us to disappear. We chose to rise. Remember that. Always remember, the ship was destroyed. Captain Li Wan was gone, but Earth remained, and the galaxy finally understood what humans were willing to sacrifice for justice. 1 year had passed since the war ended, not with a final battle or a dramatic surrender, but with a quiet collapse. The collective simply fell apart. Too many species had withdrawn. Too many leaders had been arrested by their own people. Too many lies had been exposed. What remained was chaos, and from that chaos, something new was being built. Admiral Kong J stood on a platform in the great assembly hall of what had once been the collective capital. Around him sat representatives from over 100 species, including many who had never been allowed to speak before. Humans sat among them as equals, not as servants or animals or threats. "The Galactic Alliance begins today," Kong announced. "Not an empire built on lies and exploitation, a true alliance based on mutual respect and shared responsibility. Every species has one vote. Every voice matters. No one will be silenced again." The assembly erupted in applause. Kong did not smile. He was thinking about all the people who had died to make this moment possible. His wife, his daughters, Captain Wan, 3 billion victims of the Mercy, Purge, countless others who had suffered in integration centers and sterilization, programs, and quiet acts of cruelty that the galaxy had ignored. They were gone. Nothing could bring them back. But their sacrifices had meaning now. The galaxy would never be the same. After the ceremony, representatives from several species approached Kang with an offer. They wanted him to lead the new alliance. Supreme Chancellor, they called it. The most powerful position in the galaxy. Kong refused. "I am a soldier," he told them. "I fight wars. I do not build governments. Find someone else. Someone who believes in hope more than I do." Dr. Park Yuna was offered the position next. She also refused. "I am a scientist. I build machines, not civilizations. The Alliance needs leaders who understand people, not equations." In the end, the first Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Alliance was chosen through election. A young human woman named Yunmi, the journalist who had broadcast the truth to the galaxy, won by a narrow margin. She had never wanted power. She had only wanted to tell stories. But sometimes the people who do not want power are the best ones to hold it. High Counselor Torek and the other. Architects of humanity's suffering faced trial, not execution. Not torture. Trial. Human judges sat alongside judges from other species. Evidence was presented. Witnesses testified. The process took 6 months. Torek was found guilty of genocide, crimes against sentient life, and conspiracy to commit mass murder. His sentence was not death. Humans had abolished the death penalty centuries ago. Instead, he was sentenced to spend the rest of his life working in the communities he had tried to destroy. He would clean streets on human colony worlds. He would serve food in human cafeterias. He would see every day the people he had tried to erase from existence. Some said the punishment was too lenient. Others said it was more cruel than death. Kong said nothing. Justice had been served. That was enough. Vice Admiral Shin Nari became the commander of the Alliance Defense Fleet. Her job was to ensure that no species would ever dominate another through military force again. She took the responsibility seriously. Under her command, the fleet protected the weak and restrained the strong. It was not a human fleet anymore. It was everyone's fleet. On Earth, reconstruction began. The planet had been empty for over a year, but it was not damaged. Humans returned from the pocket dimension that had sheltered them during the war. 12 billion people came home to cities that had been maintained by automated systems, ready to be lived in again. Seoul was the first city to reawaken fully. People walked through streets they had left in darkness. Children played in parks where holograms had pretended to be alive. Families gathered in homes that still held their possessions, untouched and waiting. Director Otay retired to a small house in the mountains outside the city. He had spent 40 years living in shadows, collecting secrets, preparing for war. Now, he wanted peace. He planted a garden and watched the seasons change, and tried not to think about all the things he had seen. Engineer Biksu, who had designed the fleet's weapons, dedicated himself to peaceful applications of the technology. He developed new medical scanners based on the Revelation's principles. Devices that could diagnose any disease instantly. Machines that could heal wounds that once meant death. His work saved millions of lives in the first year alone. Medic Choi Hannah opened a hospital on one of the former collective worlds. She treated patients from dozens of species, asking nothing in return. Her hospital became famous across the galaxy as a place where everyone was welcome, regardless of their past. Former collective soldiers came to her with wounds that were not physical. She helped them too. The story of Captain Lee Wan spread across the galaxy. He became a symbol not of human military power, but of human sacrifice. A man who gave his life to protect an empty planet simply because it was home. Schools named after him appeared on 100 worlds. Children who had never seen a human learned his name and his story. On the first anniversary of Wan's death, Admiral Kong visited the place where the horizon's edge had been destroyed. There was nothing there now, just empty space and distant stars. He floated alone in a small shuttle and remembered the young captain who had been so full of anger and so full of hope. "You deserved better," Kong said quietly. "You all deserved better, but you gave us this chance. We will not waste it." Young cadet. Sujin was 10 years old when the war ended. She had been born in the pocket dimension, one of the first children of the Exodus generation. She had never known the old Earth, the one where humans lived as servants. She only knew the new Earth, the one where humans stood as equals among the stars. Her grandmother, Pak Yuna's aunt, lived with her family in a rebuilt Seoul neighborhood. On warm evenings, she would sit with Jin on the roof and point out the stars. "That one is where the great battle happened," the old woman said. "And that one is where Captain Wan saved our planet. And all of those are the places where humans now live and work alongside other species." Jin listened with wide eyes. The stories seemed impossible. A galaxy that had tried to destroy humanity. A secret fleet built in the darkness. A war won through truth and mercy instead of blood and fire. Grandmother Jin asked one night, "Will we ever have to fight again?" The old woman was quiet for a long moment. She thought about all the pain and sacrifice and loss that had brought them to this peaceful evening. She thought about the friends she had lost and the world she had helped save. "We are human," she finally said. "We will always be ready to fight if we must. But now the galaxy knows what we are capable of. They know we can destroy them. More importantly, they know we chose not to. That is why we probably will not have to fight again. Fear kept us down for 200 years. Now respect will keep us safe." Jin nodded slowly, not fully understanding, but sensing the weight of her grandmother's words. Above them, the stars shone down on a galaxy transformed. Humanity had been pushed to the edge of extinction and had chosen to push back. They had built weapons that could end civilizations and used them to save lives instead. They had won a war without becoming monsters. The darkness was over. The silence was over. The suffering was over, and in the light of 1,000,000 stars, humanity finally had what it had always deserved: a home among equals, a future without fear, a new dawn.